Wow. Hello, everybody. So good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a super exciting moment because this is our very first Sierra Division live stream, and it's so great to see people in the chat commenting and being super excited. We love you. Thank you so much. Today we are going to be meeting the mentors because guess what? We have a brand new mentorship offering at Sierra Division. And we're really excited to share more information about it and also give you an opportunity to meet the mentors and ask questions at the end. So, my name is Stephanie. I'm on the Sierra Division team, and I'm super excited and pleased to introduce you to Jacob Norris, who is a president, co-founder, and creative director of Sierra Division, and Jon Arellano, who is an environment artist at Santa Monica Studio. He's also an instructor at Nomon, and now he's also mentor at Sierra Division. So welcome, everybody. Just letting you guys know, I'm gonna go and hide myself, put myself off camera, but I'll be checking the chat, making sure that you have any questions. That way, we'll be addressing them during the Q&A period at the end. All right, so I'll be off screen and be checking you guys out. Jacob, Jon, it's all you. Take care.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. And
Thank you.
I think Stephanie said it best. Welcome, everyone. And thanks a lot for hopping in the chat to join us for this. Nice shirt, by the way, Jon.
Thanks. Someone sent it to
Yeah,
me.
we didn't actually plan this, by the way. This just kind of happened on its own.
Absolutely. No planning whatsoever.
Yeah.
Swinging it.
So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Jacob Norris. I started Sierra Division about 2 years ago or so, and brought on some amazing artists, and it's slowly been growing over time. We create like outsourcing for different studios. We've worked with some awesome clients so far. We'll be able to share some more soon. As you know, if those of you who've done freelance, there's a ton of work under NDA that we can't share yet, but it'll come out soon enough. Otherwise, we've been doing some really awesome Unreal Marketplace assets and stuff like that. And looking forward to being able to continue to share more with you and learning content like what we're doing here with the mentorships and these live streams. Jon, if you want to talk a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Jon Arellano. And like I said, I'm an environment artist over at Santa Monica Studios. I've been in the game industry for the past 9 years and worked on a few different titles. I started off working on MMOs. Started off actually doing a expansion for EverQuest 1, believe it or not, as a prop artist. And then ended up working at a place called Intrepid Studios, working on Ashes of Creations for a few years. I've also helped out on helped ship some Call of Duty games, such as Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Call of Duty Cold War, mainly as a material artist. And then for the past few years, I've been over here at Santa Monica Studios. Got to work on God of War Ragnarok and the DLC God of War Valhalla. And and I've also been teaching as an instructor at Noman for the past few years as well. And now I'm excited to do some mentorships with Sierra Division.
Nice. Yeah, just a couple things you've had under your belt in the past.
Yeah, one or two.
Yeah. So Jon and I have known each other for quite some time, actually. Like, just been friends throughout the games industry in general, and always like I've seen like this guy's sculpting skills and environment skills kind of evolve throughout the years from the same college that we had gone to, and it's just really amazing to see all the new stuff you're working on at Sunny Santa Monica, and hopefully we'll get a sneak peek at some point soon what you guys are up to next after this. But yeah, dude, it's been a lot of fun. Looking forward to continuing our friendship and collaborations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been quite a career growth. Yeah, I do remember watching when I first joined the industry. I would watch videos about you, actually, about your industry experiences, and that's kind of what got me going, to get my career on a better path. So thanks for that, man. And yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, if only we were around back then to offer mentorships, then maybe we could have done that too.
Totally.
Yeah. So speaking of which, like, I wanted to talk a little bit about like why Sierra Division is offering mentorships. And as I mentioned, some of you may know me or may not know me, but I've always been interested in kind of sharing knowledge and tutorials and breakdowns with people throughout my career all the way back to the polycount days, posting like some just PDF breakdowns and images and things like that. I think it's amazing just being able to create that space where people can share all the knowledge they've picked up, and we can all kind of grow together as a community. And I wanted to continue that with Sierra Division, and so we have an amazing group of people that has helped put this together. And Jon approached me and is talking about like, hey, I've been teaching at Noman for a while, but I feel like maybe there's some chance to get some more one-on-one time with people. So we were like, hey, why not? Let's start the mentorship, start the education flowing with Sierra Division, and we can continue it from here. How can mentorships like complement maybe studies that you're already like taking classes or things like that? Depending on what school you might be going to, uh, class sizes vary in range, and there may be like a lot of students. You may not necessarily have as much time to be able to interact with the teacher one-on-one to get those questions and to be able to get that kind of one-on-one support that you can get from mentorships offerings in comparison to like an online class or something. So it seems like for myself, especially, I know that having like a mentor that is also more experienced in the industry too. Not necessarily as many schools have that same like teacher aspect where they've got the in the games industry AAA experience. I know the college I went to, which actually no longer exists, had a couple awesome teachers that that really helped out, who had that 3D experience and the games experience. But a mentor, and especially Jon here with his amazing background and career so far, like can offer exactly that. And we plan to do that same kind of thing with any other mentors we're going to be bringing on, and working with people who are still in the industry and still able to offer all the new knowledge that and like techniques and programs that they're using throughout their daily careers. Actually, on that kind of subject, I know you had mentioned, Jon, that you considered in some ways like maybe I was a mentor for you back in the day.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Besides me, we don't need to hear about me right now.
No.
Do you feel like you kind of had like other mentors in your career or just in your college
Yeah,
days?
no, definitely. Yeah, throughout my career, I probably had a countless amount of mentors, both officially and unofficially. First when I was getting started in the industry, and even before I started, going to school for this, I had mentors who kind of like helped guided me and let me know, like, hey, this is the kind of stuff you want to, take a look at, and this is what you want to be kind of studying while you're in school to make sure that you're getting yourself prepared for the industry and how it works. But then also, pretty much at every job, I've had like at least one or two, and again, unofficially and officially. A lot of them, become really close friends, and then, including yourself. And then it's also been just people I've like looked up to. And yeah, all in all, like, the thing I kind of learned along the way is that, you can't really do this all by yourself, and nobody ever really does. And it's always been really great to have like that someone who you can always just go to for questions, or for advice, or even just for like a quick little tips, like, hey, like, how do you make talables, you know what I mean, or something like that. it's
Yeah.
it's, it's a lot easier, and it's a lot kind of just it puts you in a good spot, especially when that person is doing what you want to be doing. They're working at the studios that you've worked at, or sorry, want to work at, or even done the things that you've already you want to end up doing eventually in your career. So yeah, it's been super duper helpful just to kind of have that kind of help from people who have a little bit more
Yeah.
experience, and been able to kind of share and help guide you through the process.
Yeah, because I mean, like, tutorials are great, and there's a ton of awesome content just available for free, not only on YouTube or like even people's Gumroads, like some of the pure Polygon stuff I've shared and stuff. But it often lacks that kind of back and forth where maybe as you're working on the tutorial, either the software is out of date now, or there's like one step that you missed and you can't quite figure out what it is that you're doing wrong, that you can't get it to work. And you don't have that opportunity to then like ask them like, hey, so what did I miss? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like I did exactly what you asked in the tutorial. So like I think that's something kind of mentorships
Yeah.
definitely can offer compared to just watching online tutorials and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Plus, it's like, you can spend like 30 minutes trying to figure out what went wrong when you can just, ask the person next to you or ask a good buddy, just be like, hey, how'd you do that? And then they can show you,
Yeah.
or even like, learning new programs, right? Like you said, like it can, be a hurdle just to kind of like take all the new UI in and like the process, and you don't know like which one's the right one. There's a million ways to do everything in this industry.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of nice when you have someone to kind of help you out and walk you through it, just to kind of streamline the process, right? Get to A to B a
Yeah.
little faster.
It's at least been more helpful nowadays, where I know like previously everyone went to forums and communities that way. I see a lot of people jumping in discords now, and there's like a lot of great communities that people are sharing their knowledge there. um, Oftentimes when people are learning together, they're not quite on that skill level yet, or that level of experience where they can always help each other. And even when they're in those communities, like it's great to learn together and to share together, but you still sometimes miss just maybe those people that have had that experience, or those professional careers and jobs that can share just those additional few extra tips that they might be missing. um, so like, while we're going to be offering these mentorships, it's not necessarily that people have to choose just like one option and it's locked down to they have like a 12 week long course with you or something. Like what types of tiers or options are we considering for like these mentorships moving forward?
Yeah, so we actually have a few different options for the mentorships, and they're kind of based on or separated based off of the number of sessions that we're going to be offering, and they're really catered towards just like every individual, because everyone's like at different, maybe different points in their career or points in their learning. So based on whichever one works for you is kind of what we recommend. But we do have three different options. The first one, which is going to be kind of the longer one, I'm going to go ahead and start off with that one, is kind of an 8-week long 1 hour sessions. So 8 1 hour sessions for about roughly about 8 weeks. And during that, it's actually kind of structured in the way of that an 8-week course would be. So pretty much going over all the stuff that we kind of talk about in environments, everything from concept and blockout, all the way over to kind of like, polishing. That means, creating kits, creating tileable textures. We're going to really be creating a lot of content during that time. And I'm going to be showing you all the different techniques and things that I use on a daily basis, using the workflows that we use at work, going from like alpha to beta and stuff like that. But pretty much we're just going to be creating one large, I said large, but one project during the entire 8 sessions.
Yeah.
And yeah, during that time, I'll also be available because it's a longer one. I'll also be available in between those sessions for any information or any questions that they might be having, obviously responding in a reasonable amount of time, but yeah, definitely be available. And that's going to be kind of like the big one. But we
Yeah,
also
so
do offer, oh,
that's
sorry,
like
go ahead.
the tier 3 then, or
Yeah, that would be the tier 3,
okay.
correct.
So
Yeah,
it sounds pretty much like basically a full-on class, like you're
pretty
putting
much.
together compared to a
Yeah.
mentorship, except it's private, exclusive class, so just
Yeah.
one-on-one with
Mhm.
John.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, and all the demos would be catered towards, like, let's say you're doing something that's a little bit more organic with some sculpting. Like, we would make sure that we're making tileables in the way that you would want it to look, and based on like the kind of concept or idea that you've chosen for your project. And
Okay, so
then
people can kinda pick what they wanna do when they get into it.
exactly, yep, definitely have the freedom of choice to kind of like choose a couple different choose it whatever project they want to work on, right? Because everybody wants to work at some different studio, or has a specific art style, and we want to make sure that we're catering to that. Um, and then yeah, as far as the other two what's called tiers that we offered, we also have something that's kind of a little bit shorter, which is more of a four session. 1 hour sessions, and during that one, it's a little bit more like for those people who might have a project that they're already working on, or maybe you want to do something a little bit smaller, like a little vignette or maybe a prop. And the nice thing about those 4 week sessions is that we can kind of like pick and choose, which pieces that we want or what we want to kind of go over. Like maybe you already know about kits and you already know about tileables, but maybe you want to go over like some trim sheets, or maybe you want to talk about lighting, or maybe how to get your renders of your sculpts and stuff like that. And we can kind of like pick and choose which parts that you want to kind of like have those sessions for, or we can also just build an entire project over those four sessions.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then
it's nice, it's really, like, flexible like that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Because again, everyone's at different stages. Everyone kind of has, different things that they want to learn, and or maybe things they've already kind of covered, and maybe they just kind of are missing that missing piece that can kind of bump up their stuff to the next level. So
Okay.
yeah, I
Is
think
it
that was
necessarily like specifically for people in school or juniors, or would you also consider like mid or even like
yeah,
senior level? Like to what extent I get is it for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would say these, especially like all these mentorships, they're probably more catered toward people who are maybe have gone through a program or maybe are even a little bit self-taught and want to kind of polish up their portfolios. I would even say somewhere along that mid range as well, maybe even possibly senior if there's something that maybe you're just like, hey, just kind of want to see how that person's doing, or maybe just make that connection. I don't know. But yeah, either way, yeah, these are kind of built for somebody, or I guess these mentorships are kind of made for people who know a little bit about 3D, or maybe even worked in like other types of 3D, and maybe just want to little bit more about the game art pipelines and techniques. That's what these are really catered towards. And then also, yeah, I want to go ahead and talk about that last year real quick here. We also offer just a single session, but it's a little bit longer, about a 2-hour session. And during that time, it can literally be anything from portfolio review to like, hey, John, I just want to learn how to sculpt. You know what I mean? And we can just do a nice little session just for that. So it's really, very specific. Maybe you don't have all the time in the world. So maybe you just want to kind of get in there for that one mentorship session, and again, just make that connection. You know what I mean?
Maybe they even just wanna kinda have you take a look at their resume, like you said, do a portfolio review, pretty much just anything that could be beneficial for something that they're struggling with, whether it's breaking into the industry or maybe they've already found a job, but they're looking on, like, how can I take myself to the next level and, look for, like, a future job, future opportunities, and they wanna ask you, your journey about in the games industry and how you leveled up to like senior environment artist at a place like Sunny Santa Monica. So I think there's like a lot of opportunities where they can kind of just tailor it to their needs or pretty much just hang out with you, watch Netflix movies, have a lunch or
Yeah,
something like
time is their own, you know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's the one thing
yeah.
that we want to kind of do with these mentorships is we want to be flexible. Because again, everyone's at different stages and whatnot in their learning process, and maybe they just want to get like the meat of the information, or maybe they want to learn something very very specific, and these mentorships will definitely allow for that.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, like for people maybe wanting to get to know you a little bit more before then they would jump into something like this with mentorships with you, uh, and they're considering what would be useful to talk to you about, like, or the most beneficial for them. Do you feel that you personally have specialties in your background, or have you a fairly like broad range of skill sets? Like anything you want to kind of share with your own personal
Yeah,
art
I
experiences?
would say one thing that I've kind of enjoyed doing and kind of will hopefully continue to do for a long time is just kind of keeping it pretty general when it comes to anything game art environments. So yeah, it could be anything from sculpting to material creation. I even dabble a little bit in lighting and rendering and stuff like that, and kind of making sure that we kind of polish up things like focusing on composition and kind of making sure that we're getting all the things that look good for like something that will kind of pop as far as like something that the AAA studios might be looking for. But yeah, everything in between as far as like game art creation. I'm really big on content creating, and then also just making sure that we focus on commonly used industry pipelines and techniques. So a lot of the demos that we'll be doing together, and a lot of the stuff that I'll be showing you is things that I do on a daily basis, and even something a little bit later on today during the stream, I'll kind of demo something real quick for you just to kind of show you like just common practices that we use that maybe you just kind of need to see it run through at least once just to kind of get it under your belt and be like, okay, like that makes sense. And I didn't know that's how that was done. Or, maybe it could be something that's used at one studio, but it's, pretty common practice throughout the industry. And maybe you can use it at, somewhere else, even if it's not the common workflow.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I guess if you're up for it, we talked a little bit about maybe doing like a sneak peek into some of that workflow or those ideas. That is this what you're going to share? Something that you would even say you do at work on like a daily basis, or you see
Oh
other people
yeah,
doing
I
as
would definitely
well?
say so. It's just very similar to something I just did like last week. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Just something fresh on the brain here. So yeah.
Yeah, if we want to switch over, then we can actually jump into that. You could kind of do a little demo for people that are interested in seeing the way of your teaching style, and get an opportunity to check out some live artwork is always
Let's
fun
do
as
it.
well.
Alrighty, everybody. So yeah, today what I pretty much want to go ahead and show you guys is I have this little trim kit piece here that I kind of sculpted the other day to prepare for this demo. But one thing I kind of want to show you with this is that it's pretty common to that we use trim sheets in general workflows, but specifically at Santa Monica, we like to use something that's a little bit more of like a trim model to go with our trim sheets, or sorry, I should say like a pretty much geo that goes with our textures. And we usually end up using this kind of workflow where it's like modular trim pieces. So I want to go ahead and just kind of show you how we can kind of create something like that, and making sure that this piece of geometry ends up tiling, and kind of how we go through the process of baking it out. And yeah, we're just going to go ahead and start jumping right in. Hopefully you find it pretty useful. So this piece right here that I've sculpted, it's about about a million active points. But we're going to go ahead and turn this into a tileable model. So I'm just going to go ahead and start off by just duplicating it. And actually, whoops, before I even do that, well, I guess I can leave there. But anyways, I'm actually going to go ahead and start off by appending a plane in here. The nice thing about using just the straight up plane from ZBrush is that I kind of consider this just basically the size of a 2K texture, or the size of our texture that we're going to be using. So everything that we like is in between is pretty much what we're going to go ahead and make tile. So I'm just going to go ahead and start off again. We'll start off. I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate my trim model for a second here. And if I actually go ahead and start to move it on this axis here over exactly, so I'm just going to move it over here first, and then if I hold shift, it'll actually start to snap. If I go ahead and move it over exactly 2 units, it's got to be very precise there. Whoops, there you go. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it again, push it over here, and then hold shift just to kind of make sure that I'm snapping. In this case, I'm going -2 units. Boom. Awesome. And now with those turned on, I'm going to go ahead and hide that plane just because I don't need that for now. I can go ahead and select the model that I am going to be using. And if I go ahead and go to a brush, let's go ahead and click B, go down to this Z project. I'm going to go ahead and use this to basically project what's being shown on as my other subtools. And I'm just going to go ahead and start to blend the edges of this guy. So I'm just going to make my brush just a little bit bigger here. Let's go ahead and just kind of focusing on just this axis for the moment. Let's go ahead and just kind of, blend that in there. And as you can see, it's basically taking on the other active subtools. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of just tackle it, just rotate it slightly, just to kind of make sure I'm getting all the sides. Boom, 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 boom. And let's go ahead and do that. There we go. Just kind of making sure that I got that. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and hide just to make sure that this thing looks like it's actually tiling, and it looks pretty good to me. Sweet. Awesome. I can go ahead and delete those other subtools because I don't really need them anymore. And we're just going to go ahead and focus on this one. All righty. And so now that this model actually tiles, I could go ahead and duplicate it if I needed to, just to make sure that it does, but pretty sure it does. Let's go ahead and start off by making a low poly, because pretty much instead of just it being just a regular trim sheet that we're making, we're actually going to go ahead and make it a tileable model. So I'm going to go ahead and start off by making a low poly here. So I'm just going to go ahead and dupe this for a moment, hide that one, hide this one. And then to make the low poly, I'm just going to go ahead and go down to my geometry tab over here, click on Dynamesh for a moment here, and I'm just going to kind of try to get this thing a little bit lower. Usually under 100,000 active points is usually a good place to start. I'll go ahead and just start decimating this guy from here on out, preprocess current. And I'm just going to end up doing this a couple different times, probably change my decimation to around like 45% or something like that, and just keep going down the line until I get something that's a little bit more game ready, a little more optimal. As you can see, my active points are just going down. So I'm just going to kind of keep preprocess currenting, decimate current, and just try to get it down a little bit lower. And it looks like if we were to look at our wireframe, we're almost getting there. Let's keep going couple more times maybe. Decimate current. Somewhere around right here seems pretty good. I'm going to go one more further, because why not, right? Can never be too optimal, as long as we're not losing that silhouette. That's the whole point. All right, so something like this, we're going to go ahead and use for our low poly. And then from here on out, I'm actually just going to go ahead and kick out my high poly just for a bake, and then my low poly down here as, my low poly model. I'm also going to go ahead and kick out my plane as well, because I'm going to need to use that inside of Maya to kind of determine, hey, where the edges of my model are going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on over to Maya real quick here. Let's go ahead and just re-import these pieces, or just re-import that low poly, something like there. And I also got my plane in here to kind of dictate where my tiling is going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of quickly just delete these edge loops here for a moment, because I don't need them. I'm basically going to use this as a model to Boolean with. So I can basically cut out that tileable section. So I'm just going to go ahead and just extrude this for a moment there. Make sure that I line this on up there here. Let's go ahead and select this one and this one. Go ahead and go to Mesh, Boolean, and we'll go ahead and just use the intersection there. Sweet. Go ahead and delete history, freeze informations on it for a moment there. And now that we have this model right here, if I were to go ahead and just start to snap my to vert mode over here and just to duplicate it, if I would go ahead and move it over here to the right, you can see that it pretty much tiles. There's a little bit of a gap right here just because I need to kind of clean up that low poly. But for the most part, the section that will tile is going to it's going to work out just fine. So for this next part over here, this is probably where I guess the technique or the pipeline kind of slows down a little bit. I won't go through the whole process of it, but I do want to kind of show you kind of how I go about cleaning up this model just so that I can make sure that it does tile geometry wise. And in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and start off by just kind of quickly just deleting the sides that I don't need. So I usually kind of just delete this, like this face over here and this face, because I basically only want the actual trim edge of the model. I could give it some back faces a little bit later on, but for the sake of time here, let's go ahead and just kind of get rid of these ones. I'm also going to go ahead and just just kind of scale down on this edge right here real quick here. Now that I have that, let's go ahead and just select those faces, deselect, boom. Alrighty. And then with this, I'll go ahead and just delete history, freeze transformations on it one more time. If I were to go ahead and duplicate this over, I'm just going to hold V just to snap my vertice over here. I'm actually going to take this translation amount because I'm going to go ahead and clean up my model by just duplicate special and making it an instance. So if we go right here, we go ahead and just reset that settings. I'm just going to turn on instance mode. I'm going to go ahead and then paste in. Oh, whoops. I actually forgot to grab that. My bad. There we go. We need to kind of grab this number here. Delete that. Edit, duplicate special, option box there for a moment. Change it to instance mode, change it to translate. And we're going to translate it on that same axis that we were duplicating on. But now that it's like this, I can actually go ahead and start selecting these verts. And I'm pretty much just going to want to start to clean up this model just around the edges, more so than anything. So I'm just going to go ahead and start to get those and just kind of merge these together. And I can also start to grab like the vertices. The nice thing about working with instance, if you don't already know, is that when I grab one vertice, let me go ahead and hide this option box for a moment. But if I grab one vertice, it's basically going to control the others. So I'm basically going to make sure that whatever I do to one side, I do to the other, which is pretty much the rule for making sure that anything tiles. And I can spend just a couple minutes just kind of like cleaning this up. But for the sake of time and going through the demo, I actually went ahead and cleaned this up ahead of time. So I'm just going to go ahead and just delete this for a moment and load in the model that I cleaned up. There we go. And as you can see here, pretty much what I ended up doing was just kind of welding the vertices that were a little bit closer to each other and just kind of making sure that the topology on one side matches the other side. So if I were to go ahead and duplicate this for a moment here and start to snap it there, you can see now that things line up pretty well. There's a little bit of a seam there as far as like the normals, but we're not worried about that at the moment. Everything else looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and start to make sure that we get this thing unwrapped. So if I go ahead and delete history for estimations, I'm just going to go quickly just auto unwrap that for a moment just to kind of give it some UVs. The nice thing about unwrapping a model like this is it's pretty simple and straightforward. I'm just going to go ahead and planar map it from the right axis here. Let's go ahead and just find this one will work. Sweet. And then for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and go down to my unfold just along the vertical axis for the moment. And then I want to make sure that, my UVs are kind of clean and straight. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the edges and make sure that I scale them so that they are, nice and straight. I can also just straighten UVs right there as well. That works too. But we want to make sure that this thing actually tiles and I'm using that full, 0 to 1 space here. And now just to kind of make sure that I'm not getting any sort of weird squash typology weird UV stretching in the center there, I'm just going to go ahead and unfold along the V in here just to kind of make sure that I'm and sometimes I like to click a couple different times just to kind of make sure that I really am unwrapping this whole thing. But pretty much something like this is what I would end up using for my UV unwrap. And then, you can probably even fit some other models on here if you wanted to. But just for the sake of this, let's go ahead and quickly bake this. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on over to Painter, load in this model that I've already exported out for us. Let's go ahead and start off with File, New. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my cleaned up model that I've used here. Let's go ahead and leave it like this. Sweet. If I go ahead and go to F1, you can see the UVs should look just something like that. Oops. Hide that back there. Go ahead and quickly just bake this thing out. Feeling pretty confident, so I'm going to go straight to 4K because why not? Let's go ahead and bring in my high poly for the moment here. All right, go ahead and click Bake. Boom, 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 boom. Let it do its thing. Cool. Alrighty, let's go back over to bake mesh map. Oh, no, oops. Back over to paint mode. I'm just gonna go ahead and retitle this mesh. Let's just call it trim for the moment here. And then I actually went ahead and set up as just a quick little test smart material for us to use, just to kind of visually see what this is going to look like. Let's go ahead and just drag and drop that on there. Yeah, just something that kind of accenting the curvature and cavity information of this model. But let's go ahead and export this one out just to kind of make sure that this thing actually does tile. And then for now, I'm just going to go ahead and use the Unreal shader backed one, because why the heck not? Set my output here to my desktop and project here. And let's go ahead and just put this one in here. Select folder. Let's export this thing out. Take a look. Alrighty, jump back over to Maya real quick here. Let's go ahead and bring in this because I want to make sure I'm using the same model that I baked with before I unwrap that. Let's go ahead and just assign existing material here. Let's say a new one. And I'm just going to make it sorry, whoops. There we go. Bring in this that color map for the moment, just so we can kind of visually see what it looks like, make sure that this thing is actually tiling, and then we're good to go. All right, cool. Hit 6 on the keyboard there. Sweet. If I were to go ahead and duplicate this model now, put it over here, and look at that, we're nice and clean, no seams there, we should be good to go. And then from here on out, we can actually use this in any sort of way that we want, because, if, depending on our architecture type, we might end up, let's say I'm just going to merge this together just for the moment here. I can go ahead and start to if I wanted to, I can go ahead and bend this or make some corners or do whatever the heck I want. But now that this thing actually tiles, you know what I mean? I could basically have the freedom to kind of play around with it. And pretty much what I end up with at the end of the day is, something that can be used as a trim texture, but it also has a piece of geometry that goes with it. So I can have all those forms. So if I did have some extra, crazy pieces sticking out or something like that, I would basically have a model that works with my trim texture. Right. And then at the end of the day, this material could also end up being used as just a regular trim, if I needed it. So yeah, it's pretty versatile, and it still has all that sculpted detail. And yeah, that's kind of a workflow that we use pretty often at Santa Monica. And yeah, just want to go ahead and share that with you guys. But sweet.
That's really cool, because I've seen the workflow of creating trims and tiling textures in ZBrush, but I don't know why it never clicked with me. You could actually just do tiling trim assets from it as well at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and more often than not, you want to end up maybe adding some sort of construction. So you might put a seam or something there on purpose. But there are occasions tiling wood pieces or tiling metal pieces, or something that maybe you're doing a large column or something like that, and you want to make sure that you make it tileable on both sides and stuff like that. So yeah, we end up using this pretty often, I would say.
So I see also a couple questions are starting to come in from the chat. We're going to save most of them until after we're finished up just with the general conversation here. But a couple of them are related directly to what you're working with right now. So
Sweet.
Perhaps I can ask you a couple of those just to kind of stay on point, and then give people a chance to understand a bit more about what you're doing. One person was asking what the reason is to decimate the low poly gradually compared to all at once, and if it gives better results.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually found that it does give better results, just because I'm no longer using that, let's just say we were using this guy right here. And if I were to just kind of try to decimate all the way through, every time, I would basically get some really probably kind of, dare I say, nasty kind of geometry, especially in those crevices down there. It'll kind of put all the typology in those crevices or in the weird sections of the piece of geometry by dynameshing it first, and then kind of, using the decimation as a way to kind of go down. I'm basically sort of slowly cleaning up my geometry, just so that it's kind of evenly placed a little bit more, and kind of just focusing on the silhouette rather than, in those crevices and stuff like that.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I know, of course, for this one specifically, you're using ZBrush and Maya, but I imagine this can work fairly well in whatever program of choice people are using. They might just need to understand the different,
exactly,
the different ways to achieve the same results, essentially.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty sweet. How long would it have taken you to sculpt this kind of setup here?
Yeah, honestly, something like this, Not that long, actually. I've have a period of pretty good what's it called, a few different techniques that kind of make sculpting easy. And so I kind of use those a little bit more. I would probably say something like this, maybe just like 10, 20 minutes, maybe something like that. Not very long, if that. It is usually just using stuff that's inside of ZBrush. And I think I did have a couple of different like cracks that I was able to kind of like make in Substance Designer and kind of use them to kind of stamp on here, but fairly quickly, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you saw the
Okay.
process to bake it out. It doesn't take that long.
Yeah, you're using like a combination of alphas to like splotch on top, but then also some custom sculpting in parts.
Correct. Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, let me see if there's a couple other that might be directly related to this one for now.
Yeah.
Here's kind of, the standard, but a fun one perhaps. Have you ever considered switching to Blender?
That's a great question. And if our game engine wasn't Maya, I would probably do it. But yeah, pretty comfortable in there already. And at Santa Monica, we end up using Maya a lot. So at the moment, no. But there are lots of great tools, and it does seem like there's a lot of like quicker workflows and stuff like that inside of Blender. And if there was like something in there that like I mean, let's just say this. I would love to, but maybe I just don't have the time. Just kidding, no. But no,
Yeah.
you can still achieve a lot of the same stuff. So
I know, have you other experiences with different DCCs? Like, have you used Max, or have you tried Blender, or any other like modeling tools?
yeah, I have. So I mean, I started off in Max. Like I feel like a lot of us did when we were first learning 3D. But yeah, and then eventually we switched over to Maya. And then just from what I know, a lot of the studios, at least specifically like Santa Monica and also Naughty Dog, I knew that they used Maya, so I kind of just as their game engine. So I kind of made sure to like make sure that I was pretty fluent in that. And that's the only reason why I kind of stuck with that. And once I kind of knew that and I knew all the ins and outs, I didn't really like start to learn a new one.
Yeah.
And it's not for
But-
not wanting to. I would just basically probably need to maybe to do a couple of fresh projects in there and basically make it the sole study as like, hey, I'm learning how to model in Blender or a different software.
Yeah, kind of going off of that, coming from like Max, if people are working in other softwares like Blender or Max or Maya, I know like studios often tend to have their preferred software to use just to make sure the pipeline's easier, and it's a lot easier to share files with the other artists across the way. Uh, Coming from Max, was it difficult for you to get into Maya? So like as an example, if someone's coming from Blender, I know there's quite a few differences compared to Max and Maya since they're both Autodesk. But did you find the transition difficult, or like did it take a while to kind of get caught up with it?
I would say there was a point where I would kind of like, oh, I don't know how to do this in Maya, so I could like let me do it in Max real quick and just kind of kick it out over to Maya or something like that. And that's a pretty common thing, even at like work now. That any artists who do use Blender or maybe like know how to a quicker workflow in there, they'll use that. But our proprietary engine is our Maya, so it's like a lot of us end up using that because a lot of our tools are integrated into it. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with just you just have more files on your desktop and kind of saved in other places. So yeah, if anything, working in our engine just kind of makes things a little bit cleaner and a bit easier. But yeah, nothing wrong with doing both, and even you could still be super successful using one or the other. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of would say the same. Like in general, even if you've learned in one specific type of software, the tools and the ideas are fairly similar across the different ones, and it's mostly just about your key bindings or like how you access the different tools that you're trying to get to. So I know a lot of people these days, especially, are getting into Blender just because it is free and it's really accessible. It's really nice that people have that opportunity now, because like when we started out, you had to try to find a way to figure out, like, either go into the school like late at night, and use the programs there to be able to keep up on your homework, or they didn't have like subscription offers back then where you could pay cheaper prices and stuff. So there was all kinds of really rough free programs that it's not the same like it used to be, and it's awesome that people have that opportunity nowadays.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. we have maybe just a couple more things we'll go over real quick, and then we can bring Stephanie back in here in just a couple minutes, and she could help take some questions from the audience, and we can kind of answer a few of those. I would say, like, I guess from the mentorships, coming back to that idea, like, is there something in specific that you're hoping people will get out of them? I know there's going to be many different ideas that people are looking for when they talk to you about mentorships, or many different subjects they're going to be asking you to help them with. But if they could, like, have an idea of what they can expect to pull away from it after going through a mentorship with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say there's probably two large focuses when it comes to like this mentorship. One, either I'm assuming that you'd want to learn some sort of technique or some sort of pipeline, or maybe there's something in the process that you kind of want to learn about, as far as like just like some studios that I've worked at, and you kind of want to get a little bit more familiar with those I guess, yeah, those workflows. So one, you would learn a new workflow, or you'd learn a new technique, something that's used very commonly throughout the industry, and kind of like start to use that a little bit more in your either in your own projects or your own work, and being able to demonstrate that, especially nowadays, because a lot of people make a lot of content pretty quickly and pretty efficiently, and it looks awesome, but being able to show that you understand how games are made, I feel like is really important. And if you can demonstrate that on your guys' portfolios, or on your on your websites, or even in your projects, I feel like that's very, very helpful. So one key takeaway is you'll either learn something, and being able to demonstrate that coming out of this mentorship, depending on either you're working on an existing project, or if we're going to be building an entirely new project from the ground up, that you'll be able to again demonstrate and use these new workflows. Yeah, so that's going to be like the first one. The second one would be more so like advice on just how to get better looking compositions, better looking assets, whether it's just up to the quality of your guys' environments, or of your guys' projects, and that would be more so like artistic just guidance in general. And that's something that we would you'd be able to kind of come out with, again, either a new project if you were to take one of the longer mentorships, but if it was just kind of like more so portfolio critiques, at least from there we can kind of like go over like, hey, maybe like it's looking pretty sweet, but how do we kind of make this a little bit better, and how do we kind of gear it so that it, maybe it's a little bit more eye-catching to AAA studios, or just in general. So yeah, just kind of teaching you what we should be looking for. So what are the two ways? But again, with those longer mentorships, hopefully we actually come out. We will come out with an awesome project that's going to be portfolio worthy, and something that the industry's like, yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah. So in general, like picking up new skills, and then having that like opportunity to get that direct experience from you coming from the games industry, and like having that background and knowledge to then be able to hopefully put something pretty badass in their portfolio. So.
It's the plan.
All right. That sounds pretty good. Actually, to kind of go along with that theme of like learning and growing and community, for those of you that don't know, also we're in the middle of hosting a challenge with Sierra Division. So we started a Himalayan challenge where you can head over to our Discord. I believe there's going to be a link in the YouTube description for that. And throughout the challenge, basically, people can pick a specific Himalayan themed prop, an asset where they're going to be working towards creating a portfolio piece for themselves. And then Jon, myself, and a few other Sierra Division artists, as well as a few other artists in the industry, are going to be helping to go through, judge, and then pick a couple winners for that. So then we have some pretty awesome prizes, actually. There's a graphics card in the mix. There's a laptop in the mix, and some fantastic programs and software for that as well. There's still quite a bit of time with it, so it doesn't end until July 10th, and then we'll be announcing the winners after that. There's quite a bit of time that you can actually enter, all the way up till the last week or the last day. If you're really fast, you can somehow pull together a prop in one day, but giving yourself more time to be able to do it is, of course, going to provide a better result. And then one of the prizes to go along with that as well is actually a mentorship with Jon, and a mentorship with myself as well. So head on over, check out the Discord, check out the challenge, and see if it's something you might be interested in participating in. And thanks for showing the demo, by the way. like, I know I came right in with questions afterwards and didn't even thank you for it, but it was just like I was even thinking of stuff too. I was like, oh man, I'm curious like how he did that or what the reason behind this is. Don't want to make it all about myself here, so trying to take some questions from the audience. But yeah, Stephanie, if you're still there, we can have you pop back out. Hello.
Hi. Wow, this is so cool, guys. Great demo, by the way, Jon. And I wish when I was in school that you guys were my mentors, but hard to go back in time. Yeah, I was definitely noting lots of great questions in the chat. Some of them you guys already answered, so we won't repeat. But let's see what we have and go by one. And if anybody else has questions, we should have some time, so don't hesitate to add them in the chat. All right. All right. So the first question would be from John Casper. He had a question. How do mentors stay up to date with the latest industry techniques and technologies?
Well, you can answer for yourself if you want, Jon, and I'll kind of take it from there for like the Sierra division side of it.
Yeah, I would say honestly, we're always learning, especially at like work, because not only are we trying to like push the boundaries of that, we're also testing and trying things, different techniques and different obviously like different things like Houdini and stuff like that, and like trying to use that in our workflows to kind of help speed up the process and make more efficient, better looking games and content faster. So that's kind of usually how we're making sure that we're pushing the boundaries. And that I'm staying up to date on all the different tech. But yeah, that's kind of usually how where I get the most of my time. And then also, I teach and I'm learning a lot from my students too. Honestly, yeah, they'll have like questions of like, "Hey, have you tried doing this?" And I'm like, "Okay, well now I got to go home and experiment and try that out and use that workflow, and then maybe come in next week and be like, yeah, look what someone taught me."
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it is just kind of keeping your mind open to like understanding that the industry is constantly changing and the way we do things is always changing. So having those different places that you can grab your information from, whether, as you said, it's like the students that you're actually with in class, if it's the studio that you're at, like through your colleagues, because they're all picking up information too. And then on the Sierra division side, we're always sharing content with each other. And we have like a cool art channel where we're just showing off like new techniques people are sharing. And then even working directly with different studios where basically kind of have access to like the globe of studios and talent and AAA games. And while they all have their own NDAs for the specific titles they're working on, some of those workflows and understandings of how the different studios are doing things kind of stick with you, and you can use them in your own lifestyles and different softwares and choices like that. So staying up to date is pretty much coming from the mentors themselves a lot of times, and having that drive to want to continue to be better artists. And in that sense, like you've reached this level where you're on a scale where your artwork is so good that people want to learn from you. So it kind of shows that drive, and that's where we keep picking up those new techniques and pipelines from.
Awesome. We also have another question from Nibir. The Mentorship Coalition and Skilltree run mentorship programs as well. How does your program differentiate from theirs? Jacob?
Coming in with the hard-hitting questions, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't necessarily speak to other mentorships personally. I haven't like had the opportunity to take one of the classes or one of the mentorships with them, and I know that they've been around for quite some time. I know Josh Lynch personally, and I've like helped mentor him and been mentored from him back and forth as well, just in kind of like private messages and stuff. So some amazing people and some amazing folks over there. Speaking from our Sierra division side, without knowing exactly what they're offering directly, I can say I think, as kind of I talked about, one thing we can offer from Sierra division is like our vast network of understanding of the industry. Because we're an outsourcing studio, we're not necessarily tied down to like one specific studio where we're working at and we're gaining experience from. So we're picking up knowledge from many different artists across many different studios across the world, and it's a great opportunity for us to be able to share that with different students and different people interested in learning that. As for the program itself too, something kind of fun that we've been using on the team are actually Miro boards. So for those of you who have experience with like PureRef, it's similar to PureRef, except it has quite a few more tools for like actually painting over, having conversations with people on them. It's basically a social PureRef platform where you can jump on. And in this case, with the mentorships, Jon would have a PureRef, a Miro board for the mentee and the mentor, where you both can collaborate, share your reference photos with each other. You'll be able to get paint overs in real time from Jon during the calls, and kind of have that back and forth with a new type of interface that maybe isn't available at other places that haven't had that for themselves. And then for those interested as well, we've talked about like recording the mentorships. So throughout the process of being able to get that learning experience from Jon, and maybe you forgot something he said or like a really awesome tip that you could have picked up on during the conversation, then we'll be able to provide those recordings for you at the end of the mentorship to look back on them, to review them for yourself, and to continue to learn even after the mentorship's over. So I think there's like a lot of cool, not only people that we're looking to work with moving forward with this, but then also cool workflows and programs that we're using to be able to host these mentorships with you. And then moving forward with the Discord community too, where we're hoping to continue to grow that and have a great group of people sharing knowledge with each other and learning from us and then sharing with each other, and kind of the whole loop, the circle of life with it.
Great. Thank you, Jacob. Our next question is from Ra. Is there anything someone can do to prepare for the mentorship?
Do you want to take this one,
Yeah,
Jon?
let me go ahead and take this one. Yeah, absolutely. So like as far as like preparation goes, I do think having like an idea of maybe what you want to learn as far as like 3D goes. And if it is one of the longer mentorships, then I'm going to show you everything I know as far as like, going from A to B. And I'll show you my process, and maybe you'll just like, you'll pick up some things along the way. Or maybe even like, learn like, oh, I didn't know like that's how you would go about doing it. Or like, that's the reason why like maybe like this is why you skirt later, or maybe this is why you vertex paint like this time or something like that. So you can kind of like see the process, and I can kind of break it down for you that way. But having like at least a general information of like, I would like to learn a little bit more about like, maybe making towables, or I want to learn a little bit more about like, maybe like this is what's I'm lacking, or maybe you don't even know exactly what you're lacking yet, but at least having an idea of like, I know like this is, the kind of stuff that I want to end up, taking away from this mentorship. I think that'll be really great. And then if it is one of the longer mentorships, having a project in mind, coming in, and then like, being a little bit flexible on it, because, we are going to be limited to like the amount of, what can be reasonably done within like, let's say 4 weeks or 8 weeks time. So, I'll definitely kind of help to make sure that we're, we're keeping on track as far as like sense of scope, but having a project in mind would be, really, really useful, really, really beneficial. I've also even, I always kind of recommend it, especially just to my students, that, gearing your project towards like, the goals that you have, like what kind of studio do you want to go to? Where do you want to end up working one day? Like, like who are your heroes, and what kind of like art style do you want to kind of like end up doing with your career? Having that kind of stuff in mind beforehand, just to kind of help speed up the process. This way, we can hit the ground running, and we can just start showing you some like really awesome stuff, and basically start polishing up some of those skills that you have.
Nice. Yeah, I think like you touched on some great points, and I would kind of reiterate the goals aspect of it too, because then coming into the mentorship with some goals in mind will hopefully help to motivate you that even after the mentorship is over, you'll continue to work towards those, whatever they were. And if it's working on a full environment or creating like the best material you've worked on so far, having that goal coming into the mentorship, after you finish the mentorship, then you'll be able to work towards finalizing that with all the new skills and knowledge that you've learned. So it's great to have some preparation beforehand. Just real quickly, I also noticed somebody had mentioned actually from Sierra Division, and kind of helped remind me when we were talking about like, what keeps us learning new techniques or understanding what it is that we can share with the different mentors. I totally forgot that actually at Sierra Division, we have something called R&D days. And essentially, we give people the opportunity on the team to pick a specific subject and then work towards learning whatever the new thing is. If it's like a new tool or a new workflow, or if we're going to be like, working on a new art style or something, even playing a game for the day to understand what it is about the art style that makes it unique or interesting. And so continuing that research and continuing that drive, even for all the people that working with us, is something we want to share with people as well. So thanks for the call out and the reminder, guys.
Thanks, Jacob. All right, so we have our next question is from Beta. What's the target people for the mentorship? Beginners or more experienced artists?
Yeah, I guess I would say it. John touched on it a little bit earlier, that it can be quite a bit of a range in terms of who could benefit from this. Definitely people that are just starting out. I mean, you'll be able to learn quite a bit, but depending on which mentorship you would choose, if it's that you've never necessarily done 3D before, even then, if you could schedule like a one-on-one session with John or myself, just to talk with us about our experience in the industry or what we do in 3D, to understand if it is something you're even interested in pursuing, or maybe you want to know like which aspect of games is more interesting that you want to pursue, or maybe movies or something. So coming all the way from no experience all the way up to seniors and leads, and for myself, having had experience throughout the whole pipeline up to the point of art director and now like a studio president, I like to believe I have a big amount of experience and some nice knowledge to share with you guys. Depending if maybe people are looking to start their own studio and they just want to chat with me, like, what are the next steps, like how would I even consider something like that. So there's quite a broad spectrum of things we can talk about.
Well, Jacob, that's perfect, because that actually brings me to the next question by Powell. Could Jacob provide us some details regarding the career mentorship offered by you? Like, can you talk about it a little bit more?
Yeah. So like I was just kind of mentioning, in terms of not only the level of experience people have coming in with it, but the things that I feel I could offer to people from the career side of things. I've gone all the way from starting off in the industry at Insomniac as like a contract artist. So, not knowing if I was going to continue after the first like 6 months from there, to then going freelance after my time at Naughty Dog, and having that experience of trying to like find clients and understand what kind of pricing I should charge for the freelance side of things, to then joining NVIDIA and then like leading full teams and creating tech demos for the different ray tracing and graphics cards that were coming out, and even now like having the understanding of working with people on a team, all the way from the side of the marketing, the financing, art directors, and then understanding the different aspects of where people are most helpful on a team too. So if you're looking to like structure, maybe you're coming into like a new leadership position at a studio, and you're trying to understand like how best you can work with the different artists that are on your team, how to like set up scheduling. If you're even having difficulty coming from art as your background, I know that there's so many things that you get hit with as a lead that you've never had to deal with before, because we all just keep our head down and do some nice sculpts, create some cool textures. So hopefully there's some great stuff that I can share with all of you at any level of experience as well.
Nice. So for those people who would like to do a mentorship, like how long are they going to be available for?
We're starting out this first one with John and myself, just to kind of test the waters and see how interested people are with this before we would start expanding. We're hoping to take this as a great like learning opportunity, hearing your feedback as to what you think we can do better, what other offerings might be interesting for all of you, and then being able to extend that moving forward. So this first mentorship offering is going to start in August, the beginning of August. And the longest one that you can book is with Jon, which I believe is the 10 weeks, right?
8 weeks. Yeah.
8 weeks. Okay. Yeah. So the longest one is the 8 weeks. It'll probably just be this one set of mentorships for now for the year of 2024, starting in August. And then after we have that time to recuperate after the new year and we've heard all your feedback and kind of consider how we want to move forward, then we can consider offering an additional set of new mentorships starting next year. And if things go well and you guys are liking them, then we may expand and bring in more people onto this. And so it's going to be a little bit of like testing the waters and going from there.
Awesome. So looking at all the questions, I think this covers all the mentorship related questions, but we did have some industry questions as well as some challenge questions. So I'll go over those. Very quickly, we had a question from Joyce. And Joyce was asking, why did we pick the theme of Himalayan culture for the challenge?
Well, I personally feel like it doesn't get as much exposure, especially coming from like, Western culture. There's a couple games that do a great job of like focusing on different aspects of the world and, Scandinavian culture or different parts of Asia and Africa. And we haven't really been able to explore that as much, even on the Sierra Division side of things, with these beautiful sculpts and the Himalayas. Just there's so much culture surrounding this area in the world that it gives people like a broad enough spectrum of opportunities to create different props with hopefully some really awesome like art styles, some really interesting ideas and things, while still keeping it focused enough that we have some ability to properly judge the artwork. If we were to just say like create a prop, then you're going to get such a broad spectrum of things from people that there's no real way to properly judge it all on the same type of criteria. So this was like a nice focused but still broad spectrum area that we thought would be cool to highlight for this challenge.
Awesome. Now on to more, I guess, more of a personal question for both of you. This is a question from Rob. And is there a project from Jacob, Jon, in your portfolio where you feel like you learned the most from?
I'll let you start off
You
with
want me
this
to go
one, Jon,
first?
since I've been
Yeah.
talking for quite a bit.
Oh man, project I learned the most from. I mean, honestly, working on at studios has probably been like the biggest learning, I guess, amount that I always get, just because I'm learning from not only on my own, learning new tools and stuff like that, but I am also learning new techniques from my coworkers and like those people that I say like they mentor me. So that's always been kind of a big one. But I would say as far as like personal work, if I used to do a few art station challenges, and specifically the underwater one was a big one for me, just because it was a time to kind of really refine my pipeline and kind of make sure that I get things done within a reasonable amount of time, because those are pretty quick as far as like getting a whole scene done. So I would say I probably learned the most from there, because I was just basically like making sure that I would refine my pipeline and trying to get as much detail in as I could, considering realistic time constraints. And I think I learned like the most during that one. Just again, just kind of streamlining, and almost like coming up with a a method to the madness. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
from there, things kind of like really started to kind of make a lot more sense.
Yeah, that's a great point with the challenges, because like finding that motivation sometimes to do personal work. Not only, of course, are you learning quite a bit at work, but sometimes it can be tough to find that flexibility because you're on these tight deadlines to be able to learn new techniques or to try different things. Since like, oh, I got this milestone coming up, I got to get it done. I don't have like 10 or 20 days to experiment with this and try to understand it for myself. So finding the motivation for where you can create those personal works, like working on the challenges or the ArtStation challenges, this Himalayan type of challenge is great, just because you keep that motivation flowing and it keeps you interested in the project. You have other people working on the same types of things around you that you can directly ask those questions to, and it's a great environment and like a fun atmosphere to do that kinds of stuff. So I would basically just say, yeah, I agree with you, Jon. Like,
no, you would. Just kidding.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, this was a great conversation. We are over time. Everybody else, if you still have questions or we didn't get to go to your questions, hop on our Discord and feel free to ask us more questions there. The team is always happy to help and jump in, especially if you have like challenge questions. We can go more into details there. Also, if you'd like to know more about the mentorship, you can always ask them in the Discord. Jacob, Jon, any final words before we all jump off?
Yeah, I just want to go ahead and just quickly shout out to Sierra Division, and thanks for putting this together. And this was really awesome, and I was glad to come here and demo for you guys and talk about the mentorship. I'm really excited about it. So hopefully I'll see some of you guys soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jon. Like, it was really awesome to see the workflow, and I might actually have some questions for you after this. But thanks everyone for coming and following along, and we'll be sure to try to post this up on YouTube for those that missed it, who want to kind of follow along later as well. And hope to see you all in the Himalayan challenge and potentially in some mentorships moving forward. So thanks again. We'll
All
be
right.
looking to maybe do some more live streams over time, and even sharing some tutorials coming up as well. So I know I had mentioned to a couple of you, if you're interested in subscribing to the channel, we actually have a tutorial that we're looking to release. I won't give a specific timeline for it yet, but one of our artists at the studio is also working on a great tutorial that we're going to be showing just for free for you guys onto YouTube, so you can check that out. Yeah, that's the last of it for me. So thanks for watching, and thanks for being here, and thanks for hosting, Stephanie, as well.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.